Hello. I'm sure many of you thought this video wasn't going to come. And I think I was a little indecisive on if I did or not. But alas, we are still here. And it is time to talk about my favorite timing in the whole game, the most anticipated video, the most requested video, and I think the reason, for those who were curious why it was taking so long, the reason why I've kind of been putting this off is because there's so much I want to cover, and finding the right games to showcase it is really hard. It's really hard. Um, so finally got a good game to show. I have two games I'm going to be showcasing here. And some people will be like, "Oh, Ryan, you have a bunch of games you go already on your channel." And I go factory arty a lot on my channel, but I don't go straight arty. And in this video, I want to cover straight arty because straight arty is something that is a lot more difficult to pull off, but in my opinion is a lot more effective at ending the game than fac arty is. So that's what I want to showcase here. And I want to explain how to do it. I want to explain why it's so threatening. I want to kind of talk about countermeasures, but not really. Ultimately, this is one of the most famous, notorious, feared attacks in the game, and for good reason. This should be a very scary attack. If you are going arty, everyone in the game should know. Because if they don't know, they should be dead. Right? So that's the first thing. And one other thing I wanted to mention about arty is not straight arty. I'm talking straight arty. Straight arty is not a timing you do if you're really behind and you want to get back into the game. Okay? Straight arty is something you do to push an advantage that you currently have and may not in the future, or to try and end the game completely. Up until this point, no attack we've covered has been able to literally end the game, where either everyone tries to team you, or where you know let me stop. No other timing has been able to exert so much pressure that they can kill every single person on the map with this tree. You can't do it at expos. You can't kill everyone at expos. They're just don't do enough damage. They're not mobile enough. You can't kill everyone at comps. That's for sure. But you can at arty. All right, you really can at arty. It is very common in artillery that you kill two capitals with the same push. Okay? And what we're going to cover here is we're going to explain how to get there, how to do it, everything about it, how to war properly as a part of this timing. But as a precursor, we got to talk about the rankings. All right, so here's the ranking meter. Everyone's favorite. So what's the threat level in an average game of artillery? I'm not sure if we've had a 10 out of 10 yet, but it's a 10 out of 10. This is such a... This is a timing that everyone has to be worried about. If you are watching a tournament game or you're in tournament or something, you are staring at gunpowder the entire game. And you are trying to figure out who's in it. You're staring at metallurgy because you know they're not going chem right away. You're staring at all that stuff, right? Looking at steel. Who's got a lumber mill that I can spot, right? Because this is one of the scariest timings in the whole game, right? It's frankly, in my opinion, it's scarier than land ships because land ships is beyond telegraphed. This can be somewhat hidden, and at land ships, it's often like it's on the very brink of being a little too late, where someone at the other side of the map can just go to space or like have some really big tech advantage and win the game. And additionally, at land ships, you're likely not stealing a lot of techs. Arty fixes all those problems, literally all of them. So yeah, Arty's amazing. I'm just gonna exit Steam real quick. So detection. How easy is it to detect? I'm gonna put an 8 out of 10 here. But there's some tricky things you can do. But in general, you need chemistry. You need gunpowder. Those are very obvious techs. There is a guaranteed window where you are not going to attack them if you're waiting for Arty, and they know you're coming. Or they know, rather, that you could come, and we'll talk about that in a second. How all in is this? It's an interesting question. I think it's going to be a 7 out of 10 because it's very all in. Like, you're going this timing if you commit here. Like, you have to commit to the timing. But you do not have to commit to that target. And we'll talk about that in a second. Stoppable. I forget the scale. It's been so long. I forget the scale. I guess a 1 out of 10 would be very easy to stop. 10 out of 10 would be very hard to stop. This is going to be a 9. What the fuck happened? How did the... There it is. Nine out of 10. It's... If you are against someone who is proficient with Arties, you're going to feel like there's nothing you can do. And that's just how it goes. Land dependent, it's not very land dependent. I forget what this is. Let's put it at 8 out of 10. It's so you can do this on pretty much any land. Honestly, let's just do 9. The later, I mean, the theme with all these timings, by the way, is that the later it gets, the more versatile the timings become in terms of what types of terrain they're allowed to cross over. Difficulty, I don't think this is particularly difficult, but so we'll put it at a 5. Maybe a 5. Straight Arty is going to be harder than... Straight Arty is going to be harder to pull off properly than Factory Arty, but it's going to be more effective. So you're balancing efficiency versus... efficiency versus difficulty, so... you kind of have to pick that poison. I'll talk about the differences and why you have to, where you choose. But this is going to be my ranking meter for Arty. I'd love to hear if anyone else has any of their own opinions on this. But so far, I think this is a good example. All right, so let's get into the first game that I wanted to show. All right, so in this game, I can paint the picture. I will be posting this, this game specifically. It is turn 83. I'm teching leaning. I'm about to get leaning. Was having a lot of happiness problems because I didn't have 2 of my regionals. But I am in a very good spot. My demos are very good. My science is obviously really strong. I'm playing 7 City Liberty. What I'm going to preface this by saying is that it is most uncommon to go straight arty on Liberty. But I thought that this game was a great example because you can kind of take this example and use it for tradition. I want you to look at my build queues right now. I'm teching metallurgy because I want to build my ironworks in one of my expands. And I have nothing to build in one of my cities. Like, my land is really, really strong, right? Nothing to build in my cities. I can build a caravan. I even built a barracks already. I'm not honor. So I'm going to start pre-building. I know I'm going arty here. My gold is really good at 88. I'm going to spawn a merchant right before I get to arty, right? This is on track to spawn at 93 or 92. That merchant's coming at 92. I'm going to be able to GA. I'll probably be around 200 GPT by when I want to attack. And we'll see how that actually steps up. But I'm going to start pre-building all my stuff. And I already finished all my unis here. This is like, I want to stress, this is an abnormally good game for Liberty. I'm playing Columbia, my favorite civ. My game is very, very good. So if this feels out of reach for some of you, don't be discouraged. But this is a good example of what your what your city should be doing on tradition at this turn. Okay? Cap's probably building a wonder. Expands are pre-building. So what we're going to be doing, what you're going to see here is, I'm just normally simming, but I'm throwing stuff into the build queue. I'm not finishing them. So when I go forward a bit, and then one other thing, happiness is a really big problem for when you're playing arty. Like, it's a really big problem. Because if you're going straight arty, this is why it's really common to do on tradition, not so common to do on Liberty. Because Liberty has a very typical issue of having lack of happy before ideology, right? A lot of ideology is really good because it gives per city happiness. And usually once you get to, order or autocracy, you'll have enough happiness to conquer the world. Before that, you really lack it. Now, at this point, I already have steel. It's turn 85. I'm building zoos in all of my cities. Now, I will say, in most cases, if you're doing this on Lib, you will not have time to build your zoos. The reason I even dipped Petro in this game is to prep for arty. And the reason I'm giving so much color, which I normally don't when I'm doing this, is because arty you have to be thinking about well beforehand. And you're going to start seeing this as a big theme for the rest of the timing attacks in the future. This is to be something you plan for. This is not something that you decide, like 10 turns beforehand. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go arty here. We are currently 10 turns away from arty, but I've already pre-built almost everything in all my expands, right? You can decide to go crossbows on turn 50 as tradition. You can kind of make that like spur of the moment decision. You can't really do that here. You need to have decided by the time you're teching unis. Frankly, I went into this game knowing I wanted to arty to have a video for this video as an example footage, but yeah, like it's difficult for me to not give this kind of context. So I'm building zoos in every single one of my cities. Most of the time, your cities will not be strong enough to build zoos. It's just a fact. In that case, you want to engineer either Notre Dame or have a really happiness fueled religion or something like that. Have a lot of happiness allies. In this game, unfortunately, there was like 2 commerce players, and I was Petro with someone else on Petro, so competing for city-states was quite difficult. But, I kind of made it work. We're building zoos everywhere. I already have my build queues. The reason this is possible is because, 1, I'm playing Columbia, and Columbia's insane. But 2, the sim is really, really strong, and we're able to power through build queues quite easily. Whoops. All right, so that was turn 85. Let's look ahead a little bit. 87. What are we doing? I throw up a terracotta. You'll look in that build queue real quick. Every single one of my cities, when you click them, zoo, crossbow, knight, treb, done. Already has its barrack. If you're playing Lib, you do not have time for armories unless you're honor. I did not go honor here because I couldn't afford the happiness. Now, if you're This is why Honor second on Trad is so popular, because it gives you flexibility going forward. It allows you to build your armories and overflow them. If you want more info on that, watch the video I made as a precursor to this, the medieval, or like, you know, knight cannon attack. I'm still like, you know, building my zoos here. I'm building East India. My gold's going to go up, etc. Hammers look insane. 300-ish hammers by turn 80, working all uni slots not in a GA is fucking crazy, especially on 7 Cities. So, again, I want to stress, this is not a normal game. I actually just bulbed the Scientist here, so this is important. So I'm going to try to find it, the timestamp here. So I'm one Scientist away. Here I am. I'm checking to see when my Scientists spawn for my expands. What I want to do is I want to make sure that the city with the most Scientist points per turn is spawning the second Scientist. In this case, Bogota and Panama both have their gardens up and both started working unis on the same turn. So realistically, they should be they're in the exact same course. Both of them are spawning a Scientist next turn. So it should be Bogota that spawns first. It's hard for me to find timestamps on all this exact stuff, so just like believe me here. But in this case, I found Panama and Bogota were making the exact same amount of Scientist points per turn. This is gonna change if some of them don't have gardens, if one of them has National Epic, if you got Great Library, if you got Oracle, right? All of these kind of things, all these things matter. Importantly, I'm teching Gunpowder here. My science is really, really strong. 281 on Patro without science policy is really, really good. So again, I want to stress, this is not a normal Liberty game. This is an abnormally strong Liberty game where I'm using Arty as a way to push the end of the game. Okay, let's keep going. So, Scientist spawns. Now, one thing I want to mention, and I bulb Scientists and we're in Metallurgy here. Okay? So, we finished Gunpowder. We're one tech away from Metallurgy. You are pretty much forced on this current patch where Scientists, you're not allowed to hoard Scientists anymore, right? They'll slowly decay in value. In this case, you don't want to show chem because it's a telltale sign. Oftentimes, people are not checking the tech cost of Metallurgy. I believe frankly, after this video gets posted. But beyond that, I think when we see the tournament, if someone's in Metallurgy, you're going to see a lot more people checking. If someone's in Gunpowder or Steel, they're going to start checking Metallurgy a lot more. Because people don't want to show chem because it's visually obvious. If you show Metallurgy, or if you go Metallurgy, nothing shows visually. So unless people are actively looking for it, they're not going to find it. All right. So one important thing also is, I don't know if I've started at this point. All right, so I don't think I have. Essentially, usually the way it works on a strong trad game, or on a good on Liberty or okay, sorry. The way it works is, unless you're trad or tall, let's assume you're just wide, your second Scientist is always going to be when you get Arty. So in this turn, I am 7 turns away from hitting Arty. Okay? I don't even have to do the fucking math. I just know it's going to be 7 turns. Right? You know, there's a bunch of reasons why. Once I get chem, you know, my lumber mills are going to give science. Once I get my next policy, I'm going to get... actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have taken Ratio here. That way it could have had a chance. There was a chance that taking Ratio would have sped up the Scientist, which would have made my Arties come on 94, which would have been a lot better. All of this is very specific to this game, but just thinking off the top of my head, like, those are different things you can be thinking about. I ended up taking the Scientist policy from Patro here, but all right. So, we're slowly progressing, and you'll see that I queued up Oxford in one of my expands here. So Oxford right now is going to be coming out at 93. I needed to come at 95 in line with my scientist. So I will be like making sure that's kind of coordinated properly, and I'll delay it and whatever. But I love queuing Oxford in an expand. Most of the time, people are going to be putting spies in your capital. So you cap wants to be kind of doing like non-discrete things. That's why mine is building this musketman, whatever, right? Terracotta is going to come out. I'm going to build an armory in my cap because my cap has a ton of hammers. Everywhere else does not have armories. That is important because having armories is actually like a very, very important thing for when you're doing arty attacks. One, it gives your calves ambush, which makes it incredibly effective at dealing with other people's calves. Two, it gives your arties volley, which gives 50% strength against fortified units, which is really important if they have forwarded muskets. It's also good at dealing city damage, etc. So, big fan of armories as a whole. On Liberty, oftentimes you just don't have the time. And that's fine, unless you're honor. And again, this is why honor is so good, because the breakpoint between barracks and armories is actually quite big. The second promo oftentimes is really huge. All right, so we're going to keep going here. And at this point, I'm building an armory in my cap. I'm effectively telling anyone who's spying on me I'm going to be attacking, right? At this point, I've saved up a lot of money. My merchant is coming, or it just spawned. So merchant is probably going to bulb once I hit industrial for like 500 or something. So I'm at around 2,000 gold, 160 gold per turn. You'll notice I actually I popped my artist last turn on 90. The reason I did that is because this next artist is going to come in 3. That's going to give me an effective 12 turn golden age. So you want to always be able to chain them. And I like starting my GA once I'm building units, because that gives me the most, rather than like while I'm in the war, because that gives me the most amount of time to generate gold for upgrades. And it helps me build the pre-builds. So again, I want to stress, this is an abnormally good game. This is what like a tradition arty attack would look like, but just on lib. So we're going to upgrade here some of my trebs. So now I'm at around 1,000 gold. At this point, you'll start seeing T-Mac, who's having an incredibly strong game, and Knight's Dawn, who went architecture, is also having a good game. So I have 2 targets. Both of them don't know which one I'm going to. And this is important because I'm going to be roading to both of them. Whichever one doesn't prepare, I'm going to attack. At this point, I don't give a fuck who it is, right? Either one has its benefits. Knight's Dawn is going to be an easier kill, or theoretically it should be an easier kill. It also, I'm leaning towards him because he's 4 cities, and he also has a lot of key wonders for me. T-Mac also has good wonders. T-Mac has a very accessible cities from my cities, so it's easy for me to push in. If he doesn't build any wonders, or if he doesn't build any units, I'm going to pop him, right? I'm forcing both of them to slow their games down. I am effectively saying, you have to come Cav with me. Once I don't attack them, their correct play is to start simming back to normal, sit on Cav so that they can defend themselves if I decide to come towards them. But then they'll be ahead of me in sim marginally, unless I get a lot of steals. Additionally, they could try to backstab me, but like usually what that happens is you kind of just ear yourselves out, and then you kind of create this like three-person triangle that just is just full of irrelevancy and stuff like that. Mega had a really bad cap this game. All right, so I'm doing the same thing for Knights. You'll see I have about half my units in front of T-Mac, about half my units in front of Knights. Neither of them know which one I'm attacking, and frankly, I don't know which I'm attacking. I'm heavily leaning towards Knights because he's got Forbidden Palace and Sistine and Chichen. Both of those are very key wonders for any, long-term game, and those are things you want to be looking for when you're like identifying potential targets. If T-Mac had leaning, that would definitely make me want to go to T-Mac probably a lot more than I currently want to. Would it deter me from attacking knights? No, because knights also has really good stuff. So it's kind of like a decision that you have to, a game time decision you have to make. All right, so the next thing, again, now I'm at 400 hammers. I think I said 500. I think it's 500 pre factories is pretty much only done when you kill someone. All right, so we just hit calves, and importantly, you have if you do this normally, you're gonna bulb a scientist as soon as you get to cavalry, and your scientist is gonna spawn the same turn that you finish Oxford, and that's scary because if you do that and you don't have a tech queued, you're fucked. So you need to make sure you're queuing your techs. Right, so you'll see why here in a second. I'm upgrading everything. I actually spawned a second engineer, so I'm going for Himeji, which is just an obvious wonder to build here. And I get Arty here. Well, let me go back. All right, so. Where the fuck is it, dude? All right, here we are. So I'm queuing my fertilizer, making sure Oxford's finishing, putting my Arties in spots so that they're able to shoot is the turn after they upgrade. That's very important. I moved some stuff over from T-Mac, but I still have stuff in front of T-Mac because he could just decide to attack me. This is why you queue stuff. Let's go back to that. That's why you queue your techs, because you wouldn't be able to select a tech. It's going to say choose a free tech. If you don't have a tech queued right now, the scientist, you're not going to be able to bulb for anything. So you bulb the scientist first, then it finishes fertilizer, dynamite comes up. We're going to click dynamite, then we're good. Now we have Arty's teched. And my thought process is I never build any more Arties after the initial wave. Everything you build should be calves because you're going to be losing calves. You're not going to be losing Arties. If you're losing Arties, you're fucking up really bad. You'll see T-Mac on the right has a bunch of stuff. He's commerce here. So he bought a ton of Landsknecks, built forts in a lot of his cities, built a bunch of pikes, whatever. Knights doesn't have that much. So this should be a free kill. This is, in my opinion, one of the better preps I think I've ever had. I think at the time, this video, maybe, depending on when you're watching this video, the source game might be posted. I think someone in my chat at the time was like, how would anyone ever defend this? And it's a good point. Like, there is no chance they ever could. There's no chance they ever could. The way that they defended... The way that Knights held so long is I got triple teamed, but it's besides the point. All right, anyway. So here we go. So we declare war, and my job is I want to make sure that I finish my roads, and I set up my Arty shots, and bang. Right before I allow him to buy a castle, or buy a wall, or like buy a whatever, I hit the fucking city for 104 health. Insane. Insane amounts of damage. We're going to do like something very similar with the other city. We're going to push them both at the same time. That way we can alleviate pressure off the one push. I'm taking tiles with calves. What I've seen a lot of people do, and frankly, this game specifically, I didn't do that great of a job of it. But what I've seen a lot of people do is they'll throw their calves in, never try to save them, and then wonder where all their front line's gone 2 turns later. They're like, oh my God, what happened on my front line? I'm like, well, you fucking killed it all. And you didn't save any, so none of it's healing. So, and very importantly, you want to use your calves strategically. I haven't lost any units yet. I'm going to lose some, but the one thing your job is when you're pushing in, you want to get your Arties into position to shoot. That is the only job you have. Literally, the only job you have is to move your Arties in to get into position to shoot. Because if your Arties are shooting, they can't do anything about it. They're going to slam your calves. You're going to cycle them back.
You're going to swap them out. They're going to have another full cav in front, and you're just going to obliterate everything you can see with Arty, and you're going to be slowly creeping that line a little bit closer. This is a grind. This is death by 1,000 cuts rather than one fell swoop, right? So he's been gifted a ton of shit by Mega, like over 120,000 units worth. So I'm just kind of plowing through that. I'm getting up my flanks. I'm taking my time. All my cities are building a bunch of units. I'm shooting with Arties. If an Arty isn't shooting, I'm finding a better tile for it, right? That's how I'm thinking. If an Arty is not grayed out at the end of the turn to signify that it has used all of its movement, I need to do a better job of putting it into a position to shoot. Okay? So we're shooting with Arties. My clicks are really rusty, so don't judge me too much. But we're just slowly burning him out. We haven't really lost many units. I think at this point I've killed a fuck ton of his, and I've lost maybe like one cav. One or two calves. And it's because you kind of control the pace of everything here. And then I got Zoc there, which sucks. But just keep in mind, I attacked him on turn 96. Upgraded my Arties on 95, attacked 96. It's 3 turns in. I'm about to take 2 cities. Arty works so... And then T-Mac comes and tries to push me. I end up defending him. All right. That is the one game I wanted to show. Now, I'm going to show a masterclass on attacking from Megawalk. FYI, I was initially... If you watch the source footage of that, and I'll probably link it in the description when the video's up. I probably won't, honestly. Maybe if someone wants to be a good person, if you watch this video and on my channel you see something about like Columbia, whatever, the Columbia game I was just showing, link it in the comments. I'll pin the comment. That'd be great. Because I'm going to forget. All right, so this is Mega's attack. Mega got already, it looks like, yeah, okay, he's getting at 94, which is 1 turn before me. He's trad. He's having a great game here. He opened ratio. You know, that's what it was. Would have been 94 as well. Typical Arty attacks, by the way, started around 95. I'd say like a good tradition attack usually comes 95. Liberty, good Arty attacks usually come around turn 100. Factory Arties, good factory Arty timings come in around 105. So that's typically the point you want to be like most worried about Arties, but they can come faster. I've had, 87 Arties, my record. But you can have even faster with Maya probably. I mean, it's not going to be a good attack, but so there's ways to have even faster Arties and like break that rule, but you'll kind of see those coming from miles away because they're going to be raw teching most of that stuff. It'll be really telegraphed. So you'll see Mega here. Lucas is Lucas. So this is Mega Walk on the left. Lucas Gervin on the right. Lucas has won 2 NQ tournaments. Very, very, very formidable opponent. Obviously, very strong player. He forwarded every single one of his tiles in front of a duelist. Let's see what Mega does. So I'm going to put this on 2x speed just to kind of get through it a little faster. But Mega's going to, get his Arties into position. He has some cannons, so this is a turn early. So he's starting it a little faster, a little preemptive. I think it's because he had so many calves that he needs to let calves, bring calves back so that they can heal. And that Arties can then take the spots rather than having this like endless supply of calves in the background, if that makes sense. So now we have our Arty. He's going to upgrade. And again, we're slowly just going to be pushing in 1 tile at a time. So I think they reload here. Yeah. All right. So Mega generals in. I would advise typically against generaling in, but generaling in here makes a lot of sense because this river is the biggest hindrance to him getting his units in and cycling on these important tiles. So, let's just look at that for a second. What the fuck just happened there? So he moves it back. A knight comes in. Triple flank, full health knight. 2 shot by a cav. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Do we see what we're saying here? So Arties are going to come in. They're going to fire. Lucas has done a great job defending, right? He knew this was coming. This was very telegraphed, but it doesn't matter. This is like such a good example from Mega to show how to create an attack that puts everyone around him in like complete paranoia, and yet it doesn't matter, because if you are doing the attack properly and they don't have Arties, there's really nothing they can do. So we're going to keep fast forwarding here. Mega's taking 1 tile at a time. You notice he's not losing calves. Lucas is losing a ton of units per turn. Mega's not losing anything. Mega's going to like get more shots in, going to push forward slowly, break forts. It's really important as part of any war, but is like properly breaking the forts, like right here. It's worth it to break that fort, because now he can't hold that tile well anymore. Now this city is about to fall, and as soon as the first city breaks, the whole thing collapses, typically. And now this is a really important time. Remember, he declared on turn 95. He upgraded in 94. So it's been 5 turns. He went through an entire meat shield of Lucas, and he's going to be pushing in again. We should probably see this, if I had to guess, by next turn. Yep, city's gone by next turn. Lucas left. Now, what do you think Mega does here? And remember, Mega's now teching to industrial. He probably stole some techs from Lucas, right? If your opponent, if you know they went, industrial, you can then start teching to oil and steal all of industrial and steal all of schools. Like, that happens all the time. That's worth way more than a scientist. Going to this attack just for that, it makes it worthwhile. And you're going to beat them to land ships in this case. In fact, in my previous example, I'm fighting. I'm building my schools as I'm fighting, so they're coming up a little later than I would like. I'm getting land ships before him, before the person who simmed. I'm getting land ships first. So a good arty timing where you're stealing a lot of stuff and you know what you're taking, you can strategically steal a lot of techs. So now Mega's going to go. There's 3 players left in the game. He's going to keep fucking going. Ruler has been simming. He's got his factories up. He's got whatever. Mega just killed someone. Mega is now going to push into Ruler. Why? Because we have critical mass of Arty. All we need to do is get them to stand on the right tiles. That's the only thing we need to do, and we win the war. Again, we're just going to be pushing in here. Mega's getting a ton of Arties. As long as his Arties are shooting, there is nothing Ruler can do. If his Arties are shooting, Ruler can't do anything. What recourse is there from Ruler here? Ruler has actually 0 recourse in this situation. And this is one reason why Liberty Arty is so good, is because of the ability to just road effectively. So he's just slowly working in, getting his Arties to shoot. His Arties are killing like 3 or 4 units a turn. Ruler's only killing what Mega gives him, which is not much. So you're trading very efficiently in terms of hammers, and you're slowly whittling him down. And then we're going to slowly push in here, and we're going to start firing on the city soon enough. And at that point, the strangleholds collapsed, and then I believe, fast forward a little bit, Mega's simming behind this, right? He has autocracy now. He's building, he's teching schools, etc. He's pushing in. He killed Odessa as soon as that happens. Yep. And that's the game. Once you break their first defense, their first wall, it is very hard for them to hold on, assuming you still have your Arty stack and you're pushing everything forward. Things go wrong when you throw away units, in general, but especially so in Cav Arty. You'll run out of Cav very quickly if you allow yourself to. So, thank you, Mega, for forcing yourself to go Arty for me. This game was honestly great, so I'm glad I got to showcase it. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one if there is one.